Well, not a bad day. Well, a few hours. Basically, I've been cutting into this big slash pile that the previous owners left, separating firewood capable wood from things that are going to go into the chipper shredder and then eventually end up on one of my highly organic gardens. Yeah, had a pretty good day. Let's see, what was I going to talk about? Oh yeah. Everybody seems to have this sense of impending doom about the whole economy collapsing and all of that stuff. Got some peas starting up here. Beans are starting to climb the fence. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Still fighting the moles. But anyway, I was just going to make a quick overview of the options available to people if they study these alternate technologies that I've been looking into. Let me see if I can put this down without breaking anything. Ooh. This steel combi system sure does come in handy. A little 4-cycle motor. Actually, no, it's a 2-cycle motor because you have to mix the oil with it. And then you got weed eater, hedge trimmer, big huge blower, multiple attachments for that engine. Yeah, good times. Basically what I was going to cover is the alternate technologies, right? Everybody is pretty concerned, understandably so, about fossil fuels and the crash of the dollar and all those scary things that could end up making people not only just far more poor than they currently are, but so poor that we're talking like maybe starvation poor and maybe lethally poor. But that isn't how it has to be. We've got first of all, we got transportation fuel is going to be a lot more expensive, and as a result, the 3,000 mile Caesar salad, that's not going to be practical anymore. But there are many alternate technologies, and I think you guys have seen a few of them. That garden bed that I just threw together, the one that's growing the peas and the potatoes, I only just fertilized it a little bit 2 weeks ago. But since then, before then, nothing. And the only thing I did was put cardboard down, and then I threw wood chips on top of that. Done. And instead of wood chips, you could use fallen leaves, grass clippings, if people will still be cutting the grass, any organic matter that they can happen to find, seaweed, ditchweed, all cattails, anything that grows pretty much can be thrown on the ground to prevent evaporation, and then basically you've got a garden. All you need is let it break down over the winter, and you are gardening, and it is so easy and cheap, it's ridiculous. Then you've got other problems such as shortages of water, right? It takes a lot of energy to pump all this water around, and we're doing the stupidest things with it. We're actually taking water from farmlands, and we are using it in cities to largely to flush toilets with. And basically we're taking craps and peeing in perfectly potable water and flushing it. And then flushing it off through several pumping stations into a factory, which basically sort of treats it, but it's all of that organic matter in that small space. It just it becomes a pollutant, and basically the drain fields and everything, you can just drive by a sewage treatment plant and take a smell and you realize there's something seriously wrong there. There's like massive smells of fecal matter and chemicals, deadly freaking toxic chemicals. And the solution for that, a large part of the solution for that, is humanure composting. You can, all you need is a big, huge barrel, or a wheelie bin, similar to what we use for trash or organic matter or recycling. Those big plastic totes with wheels on it, right? And basically just take a dump into a big 5-gallon bucket, separate urine from feces, and then the urine will then go directly to the garden, because that is a totally sterile, high nitrogen fertilizer, and we're flushing it down the toilet. Great, huh? And it's causing a ton of problems. And when they flush some of that out into the ocean, big, huge algae blooms hit from the excessive organic matter, and then basically things just really go bad. Then of course all you need to do is throw something of carbon, right? If you can get a hold of wood chips or dead leaves or anything like that, and as long as the feces is separated from the urine, you can treat both of those and compost them right on the spot. Even in a conventional city lot, you could put that on fruit trees or berry bushes, and then if there's any contamination left after the 8 or 9 month long composting process, you would, if you put that material through a fruit tree or a berry bush or something, you're going to have no problems. It's like this huge filter. And also there's I would be less likely to put that on like a potato bed or a regular garden with the produce growing in the ground or really close to the ground. There's a dim, slight chance of contamination, salmonella and stuff, so you don't want to do that. But you could place it on around a rapidly growing tree, such as alder, what they call weed trees, and then the leaves fall and the growth is accelerated. You can get firewood off of those things by trimming your trees, and you can turn around and basically put those organic matters that have run through the tree down on your garden as mulch and grow the shit out of your garden, literally. So that's human waste, the human waste problem, right? Then you've got energy, right? The energy that's required to run a conventional American house is stupidly high, and I think that's like our greatest use of energy is home heating, or I don't know, it's right up there with transportation, but it's a lot. And there is technology which is able to take care of that. That is very well known among the sort of the fringe community who are into permaculture and preparedness and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting how survivalists and hippie permaculturalists the two communities have almost converged, So you see permaculturalists who resemble the 1960s hippies talking about shit hitting the fan and government overshoot and loss of civil rights and stuff. And you also hear survivalists talking about permaculture and raising food and stuff like that. But anyway, back to what I was saying about the redesigning a house to be able to be really energy efficient. And what you need there is just you pretty much have to start over. You have to have the house torn down, or have maybe do this in the backyard or something. What you do is you build a really heavy, strong framed structure. You can build that out of logs and stuff, and then basically it's just a regular above ground house, and it's got windows and all that good stuff. But what you do is you cover it like with heavy newspaper or wood chips or something, and then throw a pond liner over the top and then run it off to both sides, right? Like so. Then what you do is you take a front end loader or a lot of friends and pile dirt up on the sides, right? Until it's like way out, like 6 feet, 8 feet out, right? And then maybe 2 feet on the top. And basically you're just burying this this above ground structure. It's what do they call an earth sheltered home. And then over that dirt you put another pond liner or 2 or 3 so that you have a highly totally dry or dry-ish layer of dirt, and that dirt becomes a thermal mass. It's like a giant flywheel, like a giant battery, and it's so powerful that let's continue. Let me continue with the construction. Then on top of that, you put about another foot of dirt. Then you plant grass or some kind of, I don't know, berry bushes, something that doesn't have a big taproot, which would end up down in your living room, right? And then basically that dry area of grass, of soil, becomes a thermal battery. And there's a guy in Montana who has one, and he doesn't have to heat in their 10-degree winter, and he doesn't have to use air conditioning in their 112-degree summers, right? Montana is where it is. It has dramatic temperature changes and swings because it's so far away from the ocean or large temperature moderating features, right? And anyway, you can do things like having a window right here, and then a big thing of conduit, right, that goes through, and you can have it in a certain area, or it's generally flat, so you can get some window action going. So it's not like living in a cave. It's actually kind of nice and airy, and it's interesting that the Tolkien Hobbit series, describing the Hobbit holes or their underground earth-sheltered homes, it is so interesting that is very similar to the way something like this looks. It's built of logs, and it's and heavy timbers, and it looks very 1800s-ish in there. But anyway, you don't need to heat it, you don't need to cool it, and basically it's independent almost of energy. All you need is energy for lighting, and maybe a couple of little solar panels would take care of that. You could probably put plastic over the whole thing, right, and a big gutter system, and instead of grass, and you could have this big rain catch feature that which would basically funnel the rain down into an underground storage tank or a tank on the surface, and then you could have a small solar pump or something to bring the water in, And you could have either some kind of outhouse or some kind of bathroom with the composting toilet feature that I was telling you about before. So you wouldn't, the only reason why, that I can see why things like this are not being approved by zoning regulations and stuff is that the cities, a large portion of their tax is received by taxing utilities, right? And the thing is, if you tax those utilities and you have a bunch of people building those, your income stream is going to be shrinking. But then we come upon, of course, we could go to the dollar, or we could go back to food production briefly. You know that I had that nice hugelkultur bed that's growing out there, and that large bed along the side of the fence. I have never ever watered either one of them, and I intend. And I dug in earlier today to the soil, and the soil is moist. Just underneath the mulch, the soil is moist. It's just a very, very efficient way of growing food. Now, this is just the first. I'm just an amateur with this, but this system could be ramped up to such an extent. I could have the entire friggin' yard set up with a similar system to this, and I could be just growing insane amounts of food, massive amounts of potatoes, crazy. If I lived in like a warmer climate, I could have sweet potatoes or yams, which are extremely good for you. And as it is, I'm going to have a lot of fruit trees. I got a bunch of fruit trees, berry bushes and whatnot, and I'm just a full-time worker, and basically just sort of this, a hobbyist. I'm not serious about growing food yet. But the time will come, it's almost certain to come, when people will need to get rid of these silly lawns here and actually start using it for something useful. I was a good neighbor today, and I guess you guys may have seen this yard next to mine. It was very unmowed. Well, I took the ox over there and cut it down for him. It's a rental, and I'm hoping that their landlord, the owner, a guy I know, sort of, will pay me a little cashola to keep that lawn mowed down. Well, anyway, so we're talking about food. We can grow a lot of food, and you could just. I've got tons of birds out there. There's a lot of bird food and bird habitat out there, and I could easily harness some of that environment over to raising chickens, right? I could do some paddock shift action to move them throughout the property to produce food and eggs and meat at at fairly decent levels. That was very common. Almost everybody had chickens like 80 years ago, but we're going to have to restart that. Once people start getting kind of hungry, somebody having production of eggs on their property, they're going to be able to trade for them, and the eggs are such a perfect food. They almost don't need refrigeration. You can do a few things like put oil on them or something, or sometimes put them in salt water, and you can keep them for 6-8 months without having them refrigerated or anything. So basically, and then of course the meat, very handy. So there's a lot of potential productivity that people could really do and will do once things start getting tight. We have a couple of different problems heading our way, which is of course the constantly decreasing supply of easily accessible oil. Some people, and I think I suspect abiotic oil exists. That's a whole different thing though. That's really fringe stuff. But there are some indications that it might exist, but it doesn't look like it's happening fast enough to save our crazy, energy wasteful society. So energy is going to get expensive. It's going to be difficult to project force overseas and enforce the dollar hegemony. And then nations will start selling oil for other currencies than the dollar. And that's the reason, of course, why the U.S. invaded Iraq. When Saddam Hussein said, okay, I'm going to start selling oil for euros, and supposedly about a week later we invaded. I was in that one, the first one, the Desert Shield thing, Desert Storm. Anyway, so we have the dollar, we have the energy crisis, and we're going to have the dollar will have, because there's dollars all over the world, and it will implode. One solution to that that people can pick up is, of course, precious metals and things of value, have food, have ammo, have things like that. And there is a dramatically increasing movement of businesses and companies that are now accepting Bitcoin. And the most recent one is Dish Network, and there's like millions of people who are customers to that. And basically it's being accepted more and more widely. More and more Bitcoin wallets are out there, and people are basically ramping up. There is massive, like 30 million in the last 3 months, massive. What they call seed money, startup money, venture capital money, pouring in to create Bitcoin businesses, right? Now, Bitcoins themselves are such a small market that if some rich person who has 200 million wants to invest in Bitcoin, they can't, right? For a meaningful amount of Bitcoin for them, for their investment purposes, would just totally skew the market. For example, that 30 million that was recently put in as venture capital to start up several different companies, if even a third of that was put on the market to purchase Bitcoins, somebody was saying, some technical support guy was saying that it works out that that would boost the price from about $4.50, which was like a week or so ago, and it would run it up to about $6,000 per Bitcoin. And that would create such incredible volatility, and it would not be as profitable for the wealthy person to buy Bitcoin that way. So what they're doing is they're putting money into the infrastructure and the companies and investing in those corporations that are now taking Bitcoin. It's really ramping up, and even Budweiser is going to be having a big thing in some stadium, so I've heard, where they give everybody $10 worth of Bitcoin so that they can buy concessions or something with it like that. So basically, this thing is just getting fucking huge, and I really wish, I would really desire for men going their own way and MRAs and guys who really don't trust and really don't agree with the big, huge banker generated trillions of dollars and the big Federal Reserve and forcing at gunpoint countries all over the world to sell oil only in dollars, and that way places like China and Taiwan and whatnot need dollars, so therefore they have to produce goods which end up in Walmart in order to get dollars to buy oil with, right? And it's pretty weird, and it's an imbalanced system, and it's really put a lot of good people out of work in the U.S., but it cannot last much longer. And with Bitcoin, however, and other cryptocurrencies, possibly another one might pop up that eclipses Bitcoin, but basically it really looks like Bitcoin is going to go freaking huge. So since last November, even as the price has dropped, I've been putting every freaking extra penny I've got, man, into Bitcoin. I've just been, when I started out a little slower, and like back when it was over 1,000, and I was only buying 300 or 400 a month, but then when it dropped down to like 600 or 750 and such, I was buying a lot, probably $800 a month worth. Then as it dropped down to like 420, I backed up the truck. I cashed in some savings, not my precious metals, mind you, but actual savings, and I freaking backed up the truck and loaded every freaking Bitcoin down I could freaking afford, and it hurt. And basically I've got, well, a significant sum of Bitcoin, thousands of dollars worth. And if the price target that I expect hits, I'll probably be a millionaire in a couple of years. Knock on wood. I don't plan on investing in only one thing. I intend to invest in other systems such as Ethereum and MadeSafe, those two encrypted networks that I may have spoken to you about not too long ago. But basically those, it really looks like an alternative currency which is not generated or created by governments, not enforced through the barrel of a gun and armies, and basically not rammed down everybody's throats, and basically it's a free currency for free people. You've got every once in a while the worst offenders, like as far as like dictatorships and nasty freaking brutal banana republic regimes, they basically try to ban or caution people against Bitcoin. And for example, Argentina says, oh, the volatility is terrible with Bitcoin, right? Oh, people shouldn't use it. And people are dying to get fucking Bitcoin in Argentina because their currency is inflating like 100% a year. And back in the 90s, it was just insanely brutal. And it turned a good country into just this abysmal cesspool of crime and brutality. And still, those who profit from the currency, the people in charge, they are saying, oh, Bitcoin sucks, kind of like China. And basically people are being forced to do anything they can to earn Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin with their currency. And if you wanted to be a tourist down in Argentina, you could probably get a pretty good exchange rate from between Bitcoins and their currency. There are people running all over the streets trying to change Bitcoins to dollars or pesos or whatever their currency is down there. So basically, it looks to me like that big, huge dollar collapse is in progress. The dollar's collapsing and getting more and more inflated every year, and it can't last forever. So basically, I think it's intelligent to keep as much of your money as you can outside of, well, maybe not as much as you can, just a lot of it, outside of the current control system, right? Outside of the banking system, outside of the IRA, freaking Roth IRA scam that they've got going, because it's just vulnerable to being seized. Remember in Cyprus when when all of those people in that country had, the government just says, oh, well, I like money, and I like money to have, and I don't want you to have the money, I want to have it myself, right? So the government just used its powers of governing and basically just went into everybody's checking account and took maybe 10% or more in some cases away from the people and just seized it, right? And it's quite likely that something like that will happen in the U.S. when shit really gets serious. So the less you have in the commercial banking system, I don't know, that's probably a good thing. I personally have my retirement savings at work ramped down to close to the minimum, right? You can't totally stop it because they just take it out of your check. But I don't put any extra in. And then I don't do Roth IRAs. I don't do IRAs because it's just a way of losing control over your money. And you have a promise from the government. Trust us, we're the government. Yeah. That they will not tax it when you are 60, whatever, and are able to start pulling money out of those accounts. And I don't trust Wall Street to play straight with you. I don't trust anybody. The only thing I trust is encrypted currencies and precious metals and real things like my fully paid off rental condo, which is generating about 11% a year of its taxable price or its assessed value. Every year, 11% clear profit. I'm very happy with it. And I undercut, since it's paid off, I charge less than market. And that is so that the renter, kind of an older, overweight, nice enough lady, but my goal is to give her a very good deal and keep her there, because I would rather have get 100 or 150 less a month or more. I think it might be 200 less, and then have a tenant there for years and years and years. Much rather than getting more money and then having a turnover. Like a month would go by here and there, and I would have no rent at all, and they wouldn't value the place as much, right? This lady who's over there, she is taking care of that place better than I ever did. So yeah, that is a real asset outside of most of the economic system. It's if the government started seizing money, they probably wouldn't start seizing property like that, at least not right away. So anyway, bitcoins, precious metals, food, buy a little extra, buy on sale, buy more than you need, and paid off real estate, things like cars, real assets. I think that is much more valuable and much more dependable than the next Enron or WorldCom stock that circles the drain, and buying commodities on another exchange like, what was that exchange that went to shit and all those people lost their money except the big players? I can't remember. Anyway, so let's reiterate. A lot of people think that the world is really in trouble and we have this massive disaster hanging over our heads. And my opinion is that we have ways to deal with that, right? We have ways of dealing with energy. We could certainly transport ourselves cheaper than we do. Like that 80 miles per gallon scooter in the garage. Like that electric bicycle in the garage, that thing goes 45 miles an hour. Way faster than that frame is able to handle. But technologies like that. Then food. You can grow tons of food on a regular city lot. Even if you have an apartment or a condo like I used to, you could grow a lot on the deck, a significant amount, but of course not nearly enough. But if you have land, real estate, property, gardening is the way to go. Even if you're renting, you can garden easy. You know, like I probably put 3 hours creating that bed over there max, and then planting into it took about maybe an hour. That's about it. That's about all the time I put into it. It's real easy. Oops, I'm running out of power. Okay, so I guess that's about it. Buy Bitcoins. I'm really in favor of it, so I guess I'll let you go. Okay.